Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Indigenous People Day to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you. Although I think we really are just ones thanking them because we certainly had zero to do with that process.
Yeah, that was we have a whole other podcast dedicated to that whole topic and how that all went down and who got the marketing rights for it.
Yeah, but if you think about it at the core, just think about how crazy that is, right? Like imagine coming to a place, just finding empty land, right? Think about how your head works now. When you see an empty lot, the first thing that's coming through your head is, I wonder how big of a hotel we could build there. Right? Like think about how we've evolved. We're there, just literally found land and we're like, all right, let's build a civilization.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, I think I'll take it. I'll take this now.
Yeah, just madness. But yeah, and different angles, different beliefs. But either way, just crazy to think about where this country has come from, where it started, and where we are now.
It's a little off topic on this whole thing, but I mean, I think sometimes we lose sight at how fortunate we are, right? To be able to create our own world. Like literally, we get to design the life that we want, and there is nothing holding us back. There's nothing holding us back, right? If you put in the time, you come up with a vision, you get the belief, you get committed, and you decide that you're going to make it happen. There are people, especially now, you've got a resource here at your fingertips to really help you get information about everything in the world, right? That you can put your own twist on to create and make something happen that you vision. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable to think that we get to design our own lives and create anything we want. We can have a shitty, miserable, pissed off life where we judge other people and are catty and bitchy about little things here and there, and that's just how we just go through our day. And look what he's doing now. He did this and this, and some people choose to live that way, and that's their choice. They get to create that lifestyle for themselves. Where there's other people that just like to say, hey, what kind of fun can I have today? Who can I help today? What can I do to make the people in my lives better? Right? What can I do today? That's fun, that's challenging, that's new, that's creative, that creates some cash flow, that gives me some cash that I can go have new experiences with and go places I want to go, do things I want to do. I get to do whatever I want to do. Right? I mean, look at the spectrum.
Well, and it's so vast, right? If you look at our world and the cultures and like what we have and what we're capable of and what we desire compared to others, like me and Courtney were talking about this weekend. We're like, can you imagine if you were an alien from another planet and you came here and just observed and just people watched and you watched the United States and you're like, just watch what we do, watch what we're entertained by, watch who we value and pay a lot of money to from an athlete perspective versus, and you just watch all these dynamics and you just observe. And then you go to Africa and observe how they, you know what I mean? Like it would be so mind boggling. You wouldn't even be able to go back to your world and explain it because it would just be like completely two separate planets on the same planet. Right. So it's just when we can take a step back though and get perspective, right? Like I honestly, I truly think about this all the time. When I go to my fridge and am able to put my cup and push a button and get 100% filtered cold water in a second by just walking into my kitchen, grabbing a real cup and putting it in under my fridge spout.
As much as you want.
As much as I want, endless supply. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. Like every single time I go to fill that cup up, like there's this small feeling of gratitude. And I've tried to like talk to my kids about that because I want them to understand that while I'm doing that, there's people across the world that have to walk 2 miles to fill a barrel up in a river, and that's their water. Like, it's just, and I don't expect them at 8 and 9 growing up in this world to have that perspective, but it's so important because it changes the way you operate, right? So off topic, but I think it's relevant.
Not really off topic. I mean, the gratitude that we have to have. I mean, the way things evolved, we didn't have anything to do with the landing of the settlers, right? Who called themselves the settlers that took it from the settlers, but whatever, we'll leave that aside. But just the way it's evolved from a gratitude, I think is the most important part of the day. I got up this morning and my son was up super early, and I'm up early anyway. So we start hanging out, we start playing around, we go outside as the sun's coming up, and we're looking over the mangrove islands and the sun's just popping up, and the colors are just popping up through the sky, and a little bit of purple, a little bit of pink, a little bit of orange. And it just, I just say, Kai, just take a second, just take a picture with your brain. I said, we are so fortunate to just have eyes to be able to see this. Right. It's just I'm just thankful. And I'm thankful for my ears, right? So I can hear that bird that's waking up. Right? And then that starts a little chain back and forth of what we're thankful for and what we're grateful for. But that clicks your brain into gear, right? Because when you have to appreciate what you have before you can ever get something new, right? It's a weird law of the world, right? So we gotta appreciate what we have, and it's still be hungry for more is okay. But if you don't appreciate what you have, even if you have what you're not extremely excited about, you need to be grateful for what you have. And then we can get to a next level from there. But those who don't play the gratitude game will never get beyond that level, right? It's a weird law of the world. So be happy with what you have, but hungry for more, right? I think that's step one we forget about a lot.
Yep. No, 100%.
And everything's our perspective, which segueing back into the topic today, the perspective is this market, it's mind-boggling to me because we get to talk to literally hundreds, thousands collectively agents a week, right? And to see the vast differences of experiences in the same markets, in the same states, in the same interest rate environment, in the same stock market environment, in the same Fed fund rate environment, in the same supply and demand market, in the same global economy. Some people are having an unbelievably amazing experience, and some people are crying in the corner about how bad it sucks, right? And it's mind-boggling. I mean, the checks that I see when they just close 7 deals, that's just get 7th check already this month, right, from closings, right? And other people are saying they can't even find anybody because nobody wants to buy right now. Right? How the experience is so different. And so I think we, from our positions of it, let's approach this topic from both perspectives here today, because we're going to talk about buyers today because we don't often, but I think it's extremely important right now because you can say, and I actually hear people say this is not a good time to buy, just wait, right? Like people in the business talking about this is not a good time to buy right now, you should wait. And other people saying, this is the time to buy. This is the best time to buy. I'm in the camp that this is the best time to buy. This is the best time to buy because you have so much more. Let's talk about the differences of experience. Let's talk about, let's stack the deck to why this sucks and you should never buy property right now. And I want you guys watching, type in either live or in the replay, right? Type in the reasons why you should not buy real estate right now. I want to hear the drunk monkey. I want to hear the reasonable, rational reasons. There's some reasons that you could justify to yourself why this should not be a time. You should not buy a house right now. What are the reasons why you should not buy a house right now? Let's start with that one real quick. High interest rates.
Number 1, ding, ding, ding. The Fed is drunk.
I'm grateful for this message and want to list my $4 million house with you right now. Rates are too high. You're going to lose money. Interest rates are too high. The prices are too high. The Fed is drunk, right? 2008, the housing bubble is going to crash next year. Multiple global economists are calling for a massive recession coming. The prices are going to drop. You're going to be underwater when you buy right now. That doesn't take long, right? Drunk Monkey is up. He had his coffee and he is firing on all cylinders right now.
This is the most comments I think we've ever gotten.
Have a very low interest rate on current home. Ah, okay. Very, very good. Not enough inventory. Okay. I love it. Okay. So you see how quickly we're conditioned to these answers of don't buy right now. And now if I was your best friend or your brother, and I said I wanted to buy a house right now, would you tell me to buy right now? I think that's an interesting question. People are building too fast and it's poor quality. So would you advise me if I'm thinking about buying real estate right now, should I buy real estate right now?
Yes. 100% yes.
I see yeses, 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 yeses. Absolutely buy now. Yes, yes, yes. Read an article yesterday about why you should buy now. Let's talk about why we should. We're going to get there, right? Yes, all those are false. All right. So all of your reasons are valid. Okay. There isn't necessarily a right or a wrong because we are a product of our filtered environment. Okay. So what you're being fed, what you're digesting as far as media, articles, news sources, they're not wrong, right? You just have to understand what they really say, right? I see headlines that are right, but completely misleading. And the fundamental part of the article is correct, but the headline is completely misleading. Foreclosures at an all-time high, right? Foreclosures up 150%. Okay, it doesn't say all-time high, but foreclosures are up 150%. What does that make the general public think when they see a headline like that? Foreclosures are up 150%.
Sparking fear. That's literally how they operate, right? It's to create this fear. It's to create this, oh my God, I gotta tune back next week to see what else is going on. Yeah. So it's, it creates this
it keeps our finger on the pause button. Nick, get the fake news argument. No, it's deceiving news, right?
Well, because
the facts
doesn't ask the right questions because it doesn't dive deep enough.
And it's correct. Now, foreclosures are absolutely up a couple of 100% over the time when it was illegal to foreclose. Okay, there was a foreclosure moratorium. Exponential increase in foreclosures from the time where they were illegal. Right? They don't say that in the headline, right? We have to put perspective here.
That's like a sports reference when they're like, this guy's batting 800. I'm like, yeah, because he's had 8 at bats. Like, right. How long has he played? Are we saying he's batting 800 over a career? Because no, he's not, right? So it's always a matter of perspective. But I do think the reality is everything that you're seeing from a headline and media perspective is surface level. And if we actually dove a little deeper, which is our job, and actually ask the right questions, because to your point, would I advise my brother to go buy a house right now? 1000%, unless his plan was to try and flip out of that house in the next 12 to 24 months. I'd be a little more cautious. Why? Because I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So if we're holding something short term, if we're going to try and do a flip right now, do I think that's the best plan? I'm not sure. I'd have to do more diligence on what he's buying. It could be, because we might be able to get a good deal, right? But that's different than if you say, hey, I'm looking to buy my dream house that I'm going to live in for the next 10 to 15 years. I'm not nervous at all then, because do I believe that it's going to, even if we hit a ultimate recession in 10 years from now, are we still going to be in that recession? No. So real estate held long-term is absolutely the best investment you can possibly make. Now, is there fear that, oh, but if I waited 24 months, maybe I would have gotten it a little cheaper, which meant that maybe I'd make more money in the long run? Yeah, maybe, but who knows? You also may have more competition during that time, which means maybe you end up paying more. Maybe you missed out on equity growth in that time frame. So there's a time and cost there associated to it. But the other side of it is, if Jeff buys his house and he bought it 30 years ago and he lived in that house for 30 years and he's had 30 years of equity growth, and I bought my house 5 years ago and I've had 5 years of equity growth, he's going to make out better because he bought it 30 years before I did, or 25 years before I did, right? So it's all a matter of perspective. You can't worry about the next person, but the reality is it's going to grow. Real estate held long-term is the best financial investment anybody can make. And to be able to do it in an environment where you don't have 72 offers, where you can request some things, when you can ask for repairs, when you can ask for some closing costs, when you can come at asking or below, when you can walk into a home where it's appraising more than what you're actually buying it for, that's a very different market than it was, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, right? I have a deal closing in 15 days that we just had the appraisal, and we came in $30,000 under what they were originally asking on the home. We're closing in 15 days, and it just got appraised, and they're walking in with over $30,000 of equity into that house, and they agreed to do all the repairs that we asked for after the inspection. Would that have happened 6 months ago? And we ended up being their only full offer, right? Would that have happened 6 months ago, a year ago? No, not at all. The house is absolutely gorgeous. We never would have gotten it. So it's a very different market.
Now, yes, it is a very different market in some markets, right? So
correct.
Back to there is no market. There's nothing. I was talking to Craig for a while last night, and we were talking about one of our agents called him, and he took the call and called me back, and he had 3 listings, 3 deals, all went under contract, all within 9 days, all full price, quick, right? That's a micro market that's still very hot. Supply and demand changes everything. So the answer, if you're my brother, I recommend you buy it? Depends on what you want to buy and where. And we're going to empower, educate, and encourage and look into that micro market to see if this is something to buy. If you have triplets coming and you need to get out of your 1-bedroom apartment, you have to buy something, right? It may not be ideal, but we're going to put your butt into something, because we're not going to let you flush 100% of your money down the drain. It might not be your perfect forever home. We're going to get you into something. Versus, is this an investment property? Is this for cash flow purposes? Because if you can buy a cash flowing property and interest rates the way they are today, you scored like the biggest score in the entire planet, because you're going to be able to refi that and your payments are going to massively drop, and then your cash flow is going to exponentially increase, right? So that it all depends on what you're actually going to buy. And our job is to control the narrative. That's what we do, right? That's our job. We joke about this a lot in Next Level University. We do nothing. We make nothing. We store nothing. We manufacture nothing. We create nothing. Our whole job is to empower, educate, and encourage people with our words and our actions. That's what we do, right? We speak for a living, and what comes out of our mouth either has us be wealthy or poor, and it depends on the quality of your communications. Does that make sense? Right? So we have to just explain what's going on. Let me tell you an interesting experience from mine last week, because we're in the mud about the economy, right? We've never been in a situation like this globally ever before. So really, the honest truth is nobody really knows what's going to happen in a few months from now. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of education data behind their decisions and their ideas. Like, for example, I got one of our partners in the Marriott. Is a really cool guy. He invited me to a little speaking thing with Kathy Wood, right? Kathy from ARK Invest, right? Very, 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 very wealthy, multi-billion-dollar hedge fund manager, CEO of ARK Invest. I got to spend time with her, like physically, right there, and talking about the economy. And unbelievable, to have access like that, and B, to be able to have that communication, that conversation, because she just moved her multi-billion-dollar fund from Wall Street in New York City to St. Pete, Florida. So there was a lot of conversation about why. And she's like, this market is unbelievably undervalued. It is by far the best place in the planet. I could have moved my multi-billion-dollar fund anywhere in the world, right? Truly, there's people courting her to move that fund, all of those employees, high net worth employees, right, to this city. Amazing, right? That alone is an amazing feat right there. but her explanation of why this is a great market was unbelievable, right? We could probably talk about that way in depth. But what's more important to me is the conversation about what's going on with the economy. What do you see? She has billions of dollars of people's money that she has to create a return for. It's a lot of pressure, right? And a lot of data analytics behind what she's doing and where she's putting and what she's thinking. Now, she's not right all the time, but data-driven decisions are important, and she's got a lot of data. So her vision is better than my vision because I don't have hundreds of people poring over data to come up with decisions about where the economy is going, right? So you got to look at who's got the credibility in a situation. She's got the credibility. So the conversation is, where do you think this is going? Because honestly, Tom, who's there, and he's one of our investors and one of the Marriott's, a very large investor, and we're all very vested in the outcome of the economy, right? All of us are. So the interesting points. So she was talking about where things are going. And she said, here's what's going to happen. And you and I talked about this the other day. Things are going to get really bad for Q4, right? Fact. Because the Fed, in her opinion, way overreacted, way too fast, way too far. Never before in the history of the planet has anybody turned this dial this far, this fast. So of the Fed fund rates, I'm talking about the interest rates, right, from bank to bank lending, to completely stifle the economy on purpose, right, which it was designed to do. Her opinion, data driven, is that it went way too far. It's already worked because a lot of the major drivers are already coming down, which is what it's designed to do, but they went too far and they didn't stop it. So what it's going to do is drive all the retail numbers Q4. You and I talked the other day about Target, right? What are they doing? We got 3 Black Friday sales coming.
Yep.
Announced. Every other retailer has to follow suit. Now their margins are just drastically reduced, and the numbers that were going to be bad already are going to be absolutely worse. So now you're going to have economic indicators, all the analyst numbers, all the income is going to be just devastating for Q4, drive the stock market down even further because of those results is what drives the markets, and it's going to be devastating. So in her opinion is that the Fed is going to have no other choice, like backed into a corner, no choice but to completely pivot, not slow down the rate of increase, not increase. They're going to have to drop rates. No choice. They have to drop rates, cut them significantly to re-stimulate the economy, to get it out of a nosedive of destruction. It has to happen. There's no other way out than a pivot, a true pivot. And she says, when it pivots, not if it pivots, when it pivots, the stock market's going to boomerang slingshot up like thousands of points, like almost instantly. The lending rates are going to drop significantly. Everyone is going to refi. They're going to pull cash out. They're going to go buy things. The economy is going to stimulate. Stock markets are up. Cryptos will be up. Everything's going to go up, and it's going to go back into a growth mode. She goes, when that happens, people that are buying right now are going to be very happy that they did. And then we started talking about real estate a little bit, about the buying power differences and the difference between power and force, and that's what we'll get into next. But I like that narrative, and I believe that narrative, and there's a lot of data and facts behind that narrative. And if I have to choose to tell people something, I'm going to choose that because I believe that, and I think that's true because there's a lot of data behind that, and there's a lot of reality behind that we're in a really bad spot, and this economy has to thrive. And they're killing the biggest cylinder engines in the economy is real estate and manufacturing, right? They're all dead. Supply chain disruptions and interest rates. I mean, you just killed the entire fuel factory for the entire US economy / global economy. It's over. They have to. So if that's potentially true, I believe it's very true. I'm excited for multiple reasons. A, I love the marketplace. B, I love the fact that whatever you buy now is going to go up, right? So I'm personally buying stuff that I have faith in as a good investment at these prices. That includes real estate, that includes cryptos, that includes some stocks, right? That I see opportunities in, because I believe when that slingshot happens, I would like to be on the up end of that slingshot. I don't want to jump in after it slingshots like most people do. I'd like to be there to make that ride. So That's why I believe it's a great time to buy. I'm still buying real estate. I'm putting huge bets on real estate right now, huge, because I believe in our market. I believe in our area. I believe in our location. I believe in the micro market that I focus in, right? Which goes back to this aspect. So what are you going to actually focus in, right? How soon? Let's hit a couple comments on that one. Tammy, love it. How soon will the nosedive down? The Fed has to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy. Moonlight Global Finance Services, and I can confirm the accuracy of that prediction. Nick, I love it, right? It's clear when you look at those segments of the marketplace. So let's say that happens. It's going to happen at some point in time. She believes it's going to happen sooner than later because the data is going to show that it has to. So now, power versus force. Let's talk about those two words real quick, because this is an important aspect. Who has power in any situation? The one that has something the other person wants. Right? Isn't that really kind of a simple definition of it? If I have something you want, I have power in that situation. I have leverage. I have power. I have what you want what I have. Right? So in this real estate market, those with power are buyers. 6 months ago, it was I have a house, ha ha ha, 80 of you want it, bring it on, dumbasses. Who's going to overpay me and do nothing for repairs? You, and you? Great. Who's going to do highest and best? Tell me by Tuesday, bitches, right? That's the way the market was 6 months ago. And the sellers had all the power. And people wanted the house badly enough, they bought it at any cost because they wanted it. And the sellers had the power. Now everything's shifted. And not in all micro markets, but in most micro markets, the power pendulum has shifted. And then those that have what others want is the buyers. I have money. I have the desire to purchase, right? There's not many of me right now in your micro market. You've been on the market 72 days. Ha ha. Guess what? More power right here. Maybe I'll buy your house. I can. You want it? Ding a ding a ding a ding. You want this? You want my 400 grand? Do you? Well, if you want it, then I'm only going to give you 375. Plus, I want your hot tub. Plus, I want you to fix the roof. I want you to fix all these electrical things. And I want you to redo that soffit. And I want you to do this, that, and the other. Or you don't get it. That's the market that we're in, right? Simply dumbed down. That's what we're in. The buyers have power. They have power. And that's what we as agents need to balance, understand, empower, educate, and encourage, and let them know how we can leverage that. Okay. Now, agency, transaction brokerage, all of that stuff goes on. Yes, it does depend on the market, John, right? That's what we're talking about, micro markets. If you're in a market where there's one waterfront house for sale in a whole neighborhood, the power is still in the seller's hands, which is really important for us to educate the public on, because do you want to know whether or not you have power? Let's discuss which micro market you're thinking about buying in. If I'm an investor, I'm going to look in the micro market that has a bunch of properties on the market that have been on the market for 60, 70 days, and there's 8 of them in a neighborhood. Now I have power, right? So it depends on what you're actually looking for, and that's our job. It's shifted. Our desires, our worth, our value has shifted to helping evaluate the marketplace to figure out who has power in this negotiation. If Mike and Courtney want to buy a house, there's 8 of them to choose from. We're going to just roll our sleeves back and we're just going to come out slugging with repairs and low balls and all kinds of stuff, because we're the only game in town. And then I have to educate them that, yeah, but you want to live in Oakberry Springs? There's nothing on the market there except that one. We can't come in swinging at all. We have to say, please, please, please take me, right? And that depends. So it may not be the time for you to buy in Oakberry Springs, right? Unless you really, really like it, because you can buy now, your rate's going to be high. We're going to refi you later, and you're in the home that you love, right? But this might not be the investment time to go try to beat somebody up to buy in Oakberry Springs. It just doesn't make sense. You can go buy in Oakberry Lane, and there's 8 of those. We could pick somebody there. So we really have to get into data, guys, and drive this down and figure out who has the power and how do we leverage that.
100%.
Right.
It's the name of the game.
So what?
Again, every situation is different, right? So we have to, that's our job, is to dive deep and make sure we're asking our buyers, if you're representing a buyer right now, the right questions. And at the same time, following our buyer process and not wasting your time, because you also still can't take John and Jane and put them in your car if they're not qualified to buy right now, right? You still need to make sure you're running your business. You still need to make sure you're being efficient and that you are following the process, right? Make sure they're still pre-qualified. Come in strong still. Again, this is exactly the clients I have now. That's exactly what I told them. Listen, we have to, they're going through Grow Financial, but that was the very first thing we did. Before I even reached out to the listing agent of the home they wanted, we have to get them buttoned up, because the stronger I can make you, the stronger we can be when we go in and ask for stuff. I can't have you have a lot of question marks over your head and go in and try and go to bat for you. But if I can have you completely 100% buttoned up and I deliver you all wrapped up to that listing agent, now I give them ammo to go to that seller and say, hey, listen, these guys are solid. They're pre-approved. They've got this, they're putting this much down. And yes, they want these repairs. Yes, they're, at ask, or maybe they're a little below ask, but they're good to go. They're going to close, right? Because at the end of the day, what do the sellers want? They want to sell the property.
Yep.
Right. And so if I can make them feel more comfortable and confident that you're, as the buyer, I'm bringing them someone who's going to close on that property, I give myself a much better chance, right? I'm giving myself a much better at bat. And that's really the name of the game too. So we still have to make sure, don't get sloppy. And that's my biggest concern is, oh, we have all the power. That doesn't mean we can get sloppy. It means that we have to be really, really good at what we're doing and prepare our buyers.
Right. And John and Lauren just brought up a great point too. Make sure when you as a listing agent receive a pre-approval, look at the date, right? Because they approved for 480 grand 4 months ago. They're not approving 480 anymore, because rates have gone up 1.5 points since then. So now their buying power has gone down. And always still do what's right. Call that lender. Hey, this is Jeff Beggins. I see you're working with Bob and Mary Smith. They're looking at my listing here. Tell me, talk to me. How are they? How solid are they? What's going on with that deal? I've got every right to make that phone call. You sent me a pre-approval with this guy's phone number on it, I'm using it, because I told my sellers I'm going to do a good job for them. And I'm going to see how valid that is. I'm going to get them. If it's dated back in April, I'm going to make sure that you give me an updated one before I even present this offer, because I'm not wasting my time or your time or the buyer's time. So that's the whole point. So you got to do what's right and go through that process, right? So when they're jumping back in the game, that's it. Now talk about, let's go deeper what you were just talking about. If I'm going to go in as a low ball, right? Because I see this neighborhood has 7 houses on the market and they've been on the market for 40, 50, 60 days, right? Some of them, and I'm going to go in, it's a 480 and I'm thinking about going in at the 425s or something. I better be really, really, really strong and really, really, really nice and actually go in with something cool, because remember this, people, you can have time or you can have money. You never really get both, right? So that seller can get their high price if they're willing to wait for the pivot to get more people back in the market, or they can have the money that I have for them right now. And it's not as much as they wanted, but I can have it right now. So in order to win that psychological battle, I have to prove that they can have it right now. Here is my pre-approval that shows that I've been through underwriting. Here's a letter from John, the lender from Grow, right? The loan officer, that says, I've run them through underwriting. These guys are golden. This will be a smooth transaction. I'm here for any questions. Love, Joe, loan officer, Grow Financial, right? If I'm a buyer's agent, this is what my package is going to look like. I want the pre-approval. I wouldn't mind having a letter from that lender. I'm going to ask you for certain things, but I'm going to give you a big ass deposit, right? I'm going to show you that I've got an approval. Here's a very solid deposit. Here's the thing I'm going to ask for in my home inspections. This is the time period. And then I'm going to close as quickly as humanly possible, right? So I'm going to show you all the goods. And then hopefully those outweigh my bads. And my bad is I might come in a little bit lower and ask you for a few things, but I'm real. If you're trying to come in a little lower and ask for nothing, but you don't have the but I'm real part, you're putting friction in the transaction unnecessarily. Right? You got to come in with both of these. You got to have the carrot and the stick in order to get a deal through. Too many people come in with just the stick thinking they have the power, but that's not how the world works, right? You have to have communications and actually sell that you have power in a nice way as well. Does that make sense?
Oh, and it makes perfect sense, but I also think you have to call the listing agent of that property and try and find out what is that hot button of that seller, right? And it's going to be different in every scenario. In this scenario, I saw that it was an institutional investor that had bought this house. It was a 1948 bungalow that they'd completely taken down to the studs, redone, but it was an institutional investor that did it. And so I called the listing agent, I'm talking to him and start asking some questions and just let him talk, right? Now, should he tell me a lot? No. But if you get them talking, will they? A lot of times, yes. So we start chatting, and what I found out was that this institutional investor has a lot of government contracts, because in between doing higher end investments, this one was almost a $600,000 property that they were doing. They also have contracts with the government to go in and buy and redo homes and offer them affordable housing. And so they have an affordable housing contract, and they have all these contracts with the government. But in order to maintain those contracts, they have to maintain their books to certain levels and do certain level of production. And there's all this reporting. And so he's telling me all this. Ultimately, what I've discovered was this property took longer than they thought to repair. And now they're at a spot where they need it off their books because they've got Q4 reporting that has to go to the government. In order to maintain the government contracts, which are worth a far more money than this individual sale, they have to get this thing under contract and closed. Interesting. So if I can solve that problem for them, do you think we have a very good chance of getting that property? Yes. So I brought them a buttoned up seller, or a buttoned up buyer, I should say, that came in. And yeah, we asked for repairs. And yes, we had an appraisal contingency. We had a finance contingency, still part of that deal. Stuff I probably couldn't have gotten away with 12 months ago, but we could. And we were under what they originally wanted. But again, what did I find out? They needed this property off their books. What was I providing them a solution for? I was getting that property off of their books. So I knew there was a good chance they would take it. They did. And we're going to close in 2 weeks. So again, it's just every situation is different. But if you ask enough questions and you just let that other side talk, they're going to tell you some things. And now you can start to figure out, do I have the answer? Do I have the solution that I can bring them and position my buyers now to be that solution, in which case I'm going to get a much better deal.
You nailed it right there, because a lot of agents have gotten spoiled over the last bit of time. And go show it. It's in showing time. Don't call me. Doesn't work. I don't accept that as a buyer's agent. I'm not going to just go to showing time and go see the house, because I don't have the ability to communicate with a human, right? I'm going to track your ass down as a listing agent, because I want to know the problem that I'm trying to solve. Is it time or is it money? Right? That's really the simple version of it. If they're just trying to see if they can get the most money, fine, let me know that. Now I got to tell my buyers that, like, we're not going to have a shot of beating this guy up, because there are 7 other people looking at it, and it is the only house on the neighborhood. So if you want this, we're going to have to pay this. We can refi later, but we don't have the game. Just tell me the rules of the game I'm playing, right? That's what I need to know. You found out that the game wasn't money, it was time and certainty, because they have reporting for a publicly traded company for the analyst meeting coming up. And it's way more important to them to show their balance sheet went down or up, right? The cash did. So they need to show that. That was their problem. Bob and Mary Jones need 280 grand in order to go move up to North Carolina. They don't have room. If they don't get that 280, they will not sell. They don't have to. That's an important piece of information for me to know as a buyer's agent, isn't it?
Yep.
Because now I can go to my buyers and say, here's the deal. The sellers are actually trying, they have to get a certain number, 280, to move up to Asheville. There's no other way. So if they don't get it, they don't move. That's it. So do you want this house? If you do, we might have to pay what they're asking, as long as it appraises, of course, right, within reason, but we don't have the ability to beat it up. Do you think my buyers would appreciate me knowing that? Making that phone call, digging in, asking the questions to find out what problem are we trying to solve? 100%. That's what we need to do on that. Let's ask what the flip side question. Why is this the right time to buy? Because here's what I'm thinking. What can we post, Mike? What can we get out there to the general public, is this the right time to pop back into the market? That's really the question we really want to know. Or why is this the best time in history to buy a home, right? If you're on the fence, jump off, and here's why, right? We need our own headline. We need our own news. We need our own information to put out there because there's a ton of people, guys, who wanted to buy, but didn't, because they didn't want to get in the bidding war. They thought they were overpaying. They didn't want to do it. They were caught up in the frenzy. They don't like their home. They'd love to buy a new one, but now they're like, look at these headlines, honey. There's no way. This is 2008 again. We're going to get this thing 100 grand under value. Let's just wait. Tell me how many people are having that conversation over the dinner table right now. A ton of them are doing that. So we have to interrupt that pattern. We have to bring more information to them to say, hey, I understand you may think that. Let me offer another perspective. Okay, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, let me show you another perspective of why I believe this is the absolute best time to be buying real estate in certain micro markets, right? See my asterisks? So tell me where you're thinking about buying, and I'll let you know whether or not this is the right time or not. That's where we need to get out there. We need some interaction. We need some discussions. We need people to raise their hand and say, I'm a guy with money. I'm thinking about buying a real estate piece of property somewhere. I'm scared. I'm confused. I need some information. Anybody want to help me? Who are they? Like, how do we reach out? What ideas do you have? Like, how can we pick them out of the crowd, get them to engage? What are some good ideas of how to pull them back into the game? Because they're on the sidelines right now.
Yeah, I think combating people, right, with what they're reading, we have to understand it's the same concept, right? When someone sees their Zestimate, fighting that is silly because they've seen it and they trust in Zillow, right? Because that's where they're doing their search. So to tell them they're an idiot because Zestimate's wrong, we have all the rationale and experience and everything to justify that. But for most people, it's not going to work. And it's the same thing here. We just have to understand that they've seen the Zestimate. What is that showing? And then address that throughout the process, right? And it's the same thing here. We have to understand what they're being fed, and that from their perspective, yeah, we can sit here all day and argue rates are still historically low, rates are still in single digits, rates are we can. And those are valid arguments. I just think arguing it is silly because the reality is, from their perspective and what they're reading, it's still significantly higher than it was. So now they're overpaying. Right?
It's double what it was.
Yeah. And so in their heads, no matter what you say to them to combat that, that's what's in their head. So what we have to do is offer another perspective, another thought that says, yes, they are double. But here's why that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have to understand that in 2 to 3 years from now, when the rates go down, and they will, right? Let's look at the past 5 years. Rates have gone up, rates have gone down, right? And that trend's going to continue. So the rate you're seeing now is not going to be the rate forever. And eventually rates will come down. When that happens, we don't know. But when it does, it's a simple refi out. So let's take the rate for a second and let's understand that that's a temporary thing. But what does the higher rate give us? It gives us less competition overall in the marketplace, which now allows you as the buyer to have more buying power going in, the option to ask for more concessions, maybe get even a better price. And so then do the math for them. I think that's where we're missing the boat. We're not showing the math.
Yep.
Right. And so as an industry expert, it's clear and it's obvious. But to the general public, I think we need to start doing more examples. Hey, if I bought a house at 375 right now at the higher rate, paid that mortgage for 4 years, 5 years, and I refi out of it at a slightly lower rate, what does the math look like compared to the appreciation that's likely to happen if I didn't buy now and I buy in 5 years? And I'm willing to bet that if you show that math, it's going to show that buying now and refining out a little later not only gets them more equity because they're earning equity for over that 5-year period of appreciation, but when they refi out, the amount they've paid in the higher interest rate will still play out in their favor. And now they were able to secure their home at a lower overall price, maybe at a slightly higher payment that now is lowered when they refi out, right? And they're just in a better position overall. And that's what we need to show. We need to show the math. We can't just come out and say, no, you're stupid for not buying now. You should buy now because there's less competition and there's this and there. We can say that, but we have to show it. And so I think just showing the math will help a lot.
You're right. 100% right. And this starts by getting your loan officer involved right away. Like always, guys, the system doesn't change. When it changes, you're screwed because you're not following the process. The process still is, hey, Mike and Courtney, facts are interest rates are up, which means the price that you guys can afford is down. Simple math, debt to income ratio. It is what it is. What we need to do is you need to talk to Brian over at Grow. You need to talk to Candace. You need to talk to, I don't care who's your lender. If you don't have one, talk to mine. And we need to go through the process to find out what you guys qualify for. What program is out there that's good for you? How much equity do you have in your home? What could you put down on another home? What is your credit score? What is your income and what do you qualify for? That's it. There's no other question to be even had. There's no search to even start doing until I know that you guys can afford a payment of $2,800 a month. Guess what? That $2,800 a month does not buy you what it did a year ago. It just does not. Fact. Okay. But it does buy you this. And let's show you what's available in this category. And if you like what's available in this category, let's buy it. And if you don't, then let's have a discussion. But it has to start here, guys. It has to start here because they don't understand, nor should they understand, because it's not their job to understand what they qualify for. It's vastly different than it was 6 months ago and a year ago. Completely different neighborhood. They cannot afford the same neighborhood they could have afforded last year. They can, many of them cannot, right? We have to make that okay. We have to make it okay. And we have to hold their hand through that and say, here, when you refi, this is going to be your future rental property. If it's not their forever home, talk them into buying it now because it's a phenomenal investment for the future. They will refi it down. And if those numbers make sense to keep it as a rental, beautiful. Because now you have that income stream to qualify for your forever home, plus the equity you'll make over the years, right? It's our job to have that conversation, guys, and say, God, hey, you can only qualify. Let's be honest too. Mike and Courtney, if you guys can only qualify for this right now, and that neighborhood is not what you want, stay where you are. Let's see what happens. Because rates will come down, but when they come down, more buyers will come in, and now you're not going to be able to get the concessions you're able to get today because of supply and demand, right?
Involve your lender though. To Jeff's point, because when this deal happened and I called Brian at Grow, we just were chatting and I go way back with Brian and we were just talking. I said, how are things? And he's like, dude, it's a challenge right now. It's slow. And we're trying to get, so they're having the same struggle you're having. Right. And so they're trying to find ways to get out there in front of these people to say, hey, guys, yes, rates are up, but you know, they're taking a hit too. And so you have people, a lot of loan officers, call your favorite loan officer and have that discussion with them. And I'm willing to bet that they're having the same struggle right now where they're trying to educate buyers. So work with them, right? And find ways to collaborate there and get the math across and let them do the math for you because that's their job. And then be that communication gateway to the end consumer to share that information. And together you guys can really educate. You know, I saw someone put in the chat, do some buyer seminars. Sure, film that, right? But it doesn't even have to be a live seminar. Just shoot that video. Go to your favorite loan officer, go sit down in their branch and interview them, do a Q&A, do a podcast, do whatever you want, but have that conversation and let them do the math. And again, show the math. I think it feels complicated to somebody who's not in it every day, to someone who hasn't ever bought a house or someone hasn't bought a house in, 10 years or 15 years or 30 years. It's complicated. So simplify it, show them the math. And I think when they see that, they're going to realize that paying a little bit more now on the rate isn't ultimately a big deal, even though the headline tells them it is. And so it's just a matter of showing them that and making it very, very clear. And that's it. And then if you do that alongside of an industry expert that can, in the financial side, on the loan side, that can also explain that process extremely well, and that's their job, that's a win-win, right? So That would be my suggestion as far as getting it out there.
And keep it simple, guys, right? Don't try to do things that we're not licensed or qualified to do. I don't know what kind of home you can afford. I've got no clue. Just because you tell me you want to look at $700,000 houses, I may assume that you can afford them. I have no clue. You might be loaded. You might be richer than crap. You might be the best cardiologist surgeon in the planet, but you might write off everything and show zero income and you're unfinanceable. I don't know. I don't care, but I need to know, right? So why I can't even have this conversation with you drives me crazy when you guys are talking numbers with buyers and showing them houses and talking about, should I buy this condo or that condo? How are you even having this conversation until they've been through the process? It doesn't make any sense. We have to soften the delivery of that step, guys, because it makes zero sense. There's not one argument you can give me that's, I believe, is valid of why you could possibly even talk about buying a home or even looking at properties until you have physically spoken with the lender of that buyer, especially in an economic environment like today. Because here's what happens. Let's remind you what happens, okay? Mike and Courtney, they call me on a sign they saw go up in their neighborhood. It's a $787,000 listing I have. They want to see it on Saturday. I don't go to my kids' t-ball game. I show them the house on Saturday, right? My kids pissed at me. I'm feeling guilty. Now I'm showing this house to buyers who, they live in a nice house. He's got a good job. Everything checks out on paper. And they love the house, absolutely love it. They're going to go home and crunch some numbers and talk to it. And they're qualified. His best buddy works over at Grove. They've done a refi, so they know their equity. They're on paper golden. And they go home and I call them, no answer. Text them, ghosted. Crickets. Call, voicemail. Text, no reply. No reply, no reply. Ghost, blocked. Gone. What happened? They talked to their lender. The lender said, hey, you guys are stellar, but the way the rates are right now, your max is 680. I just got them in love with a 787 house. Are they ever going to tell me they can't afford it? Nope. It's way easier to ghost my ass. Never talk to me again. They're never going to see me again. They don't even know what I look like. They don't remember me. I was the conduit to getting inside of a house is all I was, realistically. I'm gone. I'm dead to them. Now they're going to say, well, honey, that sucks. I know we love that house, but let's change our search parameters. Look at this one over on Honey Hills. This is only 680. Let's go buy that one. Ring, 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 listing agent, we're coming over. Here's our pre-approval letter. They bought a new house. All because I was a dumbass, right? And didn't follow the process. Had I followed the process, called their friend Brian, the lender, he would have done the numbers to realize that 687 was their number. And then I would have sold them the house they just bought. But because I was dumb, right? I'm gonna call it what it is, and didn't follow my system and was not a business person, I lost the experience of my kids' t-ball game, right? I loaded myself up with guilt and I made zero money. That's just called dumb, right? And all I had to do was say, Mike, so I would love to interview for the job to be a buyer's agent. I'm really good at this. I'm not sounding arrogant on it, but I'm really good at what I do. I will get you guys a phenomenal property, the best concessions I can. We'll be really happy. Let me tell you how I run my business. First thing we need to do is chat with the loan officer, because the way the market is right now, we have to be ready to pounce when we find the right home, which I know I will. Who are you working with? Great. Do you have their phone number? Let's call them. There's some really cool loan programs out there. Let me find out which ones they're using for you, so I know what kind of buying power we're going to go in with. And then from there, we'll know the perfect house to find for you. Let's give him a phone call. I'm not doing anything other than that. I do not run my business in a way that I'm going to waste my time. I just don't. I would rather be at a t-ball game. Fair enough, right? So, and I don't care what stage of life you're in your career, guys, this is the process. You have to do this because it's best for them and it's best for us. And how rude is it for me to have my seller have to leave their house on a Saturday for me to come over to show them the house that they can't afford to buy? Like, nobody won in that scenario. It was a lose, 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 bad deal across the board that could have been solved with a 30-second conversation to reshuffle the deck, to instill myself as the agent in charge of this transaction because that's my livelihood, right? He needs to trust my process because it's good, right? So we kind of got in the buyer process, but that's important, guys. I can't drive that point home enough. We can't make it more important than that, right? Have to. Who's your go-to? Who is your go-to loan officer? You better have that number in your phone, right? You better have it. You have to have it. That's got to be the first thing you do, guys, no matter how good they are, right? So that's that. So our point, speed to lead with balance and family. Yep. Speed. That's right. You got to have balance. What's important to you? Family's important. Income's important. You got to find the balance, but don't trade off things that are going to have a return for you. It doesn't make any sense to miss a T-ball game to make 12 grand. I can kind of justify missing the T-ball game if the 12 grand pays for the tuition for my school, for my kid, right? That's being a responsible parent at that point in time, if I couldn't have moved the time for parent. Now, there's also times where I could say, hey, I got a T-ball game with my kid. Is there any possibility we can move this to 1:30 because the game's at 10? Could I have that conversation? He would probably appreciate that as a buyer, especially Mike, right? He coaches baseball. He would probably really appreciate that aspect of being a family first type of guy that wants to take care of my obligations. Or, hey, I would love to, but we have a flight out at 10:45, right? And I have no other choice, right? Now I have a decision to make. That's just how I want to run my business. So we just think about that. So that's the point. All right, so summarize what we talked about today. We hit 1,200 topics.
We did cover a full spectrum. It's good.
We talked about the taking of real estate in the very beginning.
We did start with that, right? You gotta, this land was built through some tragedy and unfortunate circumstances, but it's evolved quite a bit into where we are today. But that should lead us all to have massive appreciation and be really appreciative of where you are, be really appreciative of what we've experienced over the last 24 months. And hopefully that gratitude of that will also feed into the hunger of the steps that we're going to take over the next 12 to 24 months. And they're not better or worse, they're just different, right? So we just gotta adapt a little.
We got to be on point, guys, and this market will continue to throw us curveballs. That's the beautiful thing about this market, is we stay ahead of it. We're right on top of it and pivoting where we need to as the moment things are happening, right? This is the moment that we're in right now. Be very different than the moment we're in 60 days from now, right? I really believe it is that way. But right now, you've got to run your business on point for what's important today, and it is follow the process. Follow the process, follow the process. And remember, you have power in certain micro markets, you do not in others. And it's our job to know the difference and to educate, empower, encourage our clients to know which micro market they're in, what are the supply and demand demographics inside that market, what we can get away with, what we can't get away with. But either way, you got to follow the process, which starts with the lender qualification and just walk them through the whole process there. So that's what we wanted to get across to you guys today. That was our mission. And I hope you guys got some good content out of it. And guys, tell people to get off the fence. It's a great time. It's an unbelievable time to be buying real estate right now.
It really is.
Have a wonderful day. See you guys.